The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my own personal merch store, the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. I have hats, I have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, water bottles, notebooks, you name it, I've got it. The description and the link for that will be in the description of this episode. Also, right now, if you use the promo code WELCOME, I will give you 5% off of your first purchase. That's the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link, Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans, as it is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. Now, let's start the show. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is, as always, your host, Mike Bono. I have a great guest for us today. He comes to us knowing former guest of the show, Brandon Wiley. And Ceasar Westbrook joins the show. Ceasar, thanks for joining, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited. I appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem. First and foremost, how do you know Brandon?
Man, I've been good friends with Brandon for about 6 years now, 5 or 6 years. I actually do the graphic design and media work for his nonprofit organization, Open Eyes. So I work pretty closely with Brandon, and then he told me about the show and told me he'd be recommending you guys. So that's pretty much how I know Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon's a good dude. He's been on the show a couple of times, obviously his individual show, and he's been on a couple of our round tables that we like to have throughout the year, and it's just great. So how did you get involved with Open Eyes? Was it just through Brandon? Is that how y'all met, or how did that come to fruition?
We met through a mutual friend, and then he kind of found out what I do on the art side, and he told me he was trying to get his organization up and running again, because it kind of came to a little bit of a halt. And so we kind of just merged a little bit, and I was able to help him out and get things rolling. And it's kind of what I needed at the moment as well, just as far as, me getting a different, taste of scenery and doing something a little different. So, we kind of both suited each other, and it worked out, and I've been working with him ever since. So and we're like really, really, really good friends. So it just kind of works out.
I mean, I get that 100%. The manager of the show, Johnny Fitty Falcone, I mean, we go back to the college days at Bethany. We were both athletes. We kind of hung around each other there and, reconnected later on after graduation and everything like that, and have this show together. So, it's good to know people and, have that relationship with them. And I got to tell you, though, I think I talked to him more than I talked to my wife, and that's, you know what I mean? It's anytime my phone rings nowadays, my wife just looks at me, is that Fitty? Yeah, it's Fitty. It's
that's awesome. That's awesome.
So I get that 100%, but now you're in the Erie area. Have you always lived in Erie, or did you move there?
I'm originally from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So, I lived there most of my life. I've only lived in Erie now for about 9 years. I moved here when I found out I was expecting my son. So that's when I moved up here. He'll be 9 at the end of this month. And so I've been up here as pretty much as long as I knew he was going to be making an appearance. And yeah, man, it's been good to me. Erie's been great to me. But I went to school at IUP. And so then a year after I graduated there is when I moved up here, and been here ever since.
I'll tell you this. Good luck with the 9-year-old. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you, I have a 14-year-old now, so
Yeah,
I'd love to tell you it gets better,
yeah.
but it doesn't.
Oh, I know. In my household, we have a blended family. So my girlfriend and I all together we have three. So we have about to be two 9-year-olds, and then a 13-year-old who's going to be actually 14 at the end of this week on Friday. So.
Okay.
So we have a good range of ages to work through, and I already can see it's not getting easier. So
Yeah, I get that. My son, he's a stepson. I don't even like to say that term.
Sure, right.
Because for the past 8 years, I've picked up the payments. You know what I mean, and so that's my son. But my wife, in her divorce, actually inherited two stepdaughters too as well, and the divorce, and they're 22 and 23, I think.
Wow.
They're in their 20s. So, but
yeah.
I mean, we don't get to see them as much as we would like to, obviously. But,
for sure.
I definitely get the blended family aspect. There's not a dull moment in the Bono household here, for sure.
I believe it. I fully believe it. That's awesome.
So, I get this a lot. I mean, I grew up in a little town in West Virginia, about an hour outside of Pittsburgh. So, Erie gets kind of an underrated value as, like places to visit and vacation. Now, what are your favorite things to do in Erie? You know what I mean? And, like, what are some of the unique spots, that maybe some of the listeners might like to go and visit?
Yeah, on my free time, I'm a big fisherman. I like to fish whenever I get a chance. So I like to take advantage of the lake. One thing I realize is a lot of people that are from here don't take advantage of it. And it's just, I found that kind of odd. I'm like, you're literally 5 minutes from, a great experience. And, you would think they take advantage of it a little more. But that's something I love to do. I stay active. So, I like to work out. And like I said, I have my kids. So I try to do fun stuff all the time. I'm a big foodie as well. So anywhere there's good food, you can find me. So a lot of the festivals they have throughout the summer, like the Rib Fest, the Greek Fest, all that stuff. I try to make a pop up and just support those and just have a good time with those, whether it's with my friends or with my family. So those are primarily my biggest things I like to do is just be outdoors and stuff like that. But I love to travel too. So that's one thing I'm trying to sew into my life right now is traveling and just getting out there and doing different things and visiting places or friends that live in areas that I haven't been to yet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could say I used to like to travel. Now, being a comedian, it's part of what I do.
So it's not really, yeah, I got it.
You know what I mean? It's fun to get to see new cities, and like you said, I mean, I don't know if I would call me a foodie, but I love food. Like that's just part of me. And growing up Italian, it's just we don't leave food anywhere. That's not.
I really don't. That is like your mom. It's so funny because that is so true.
Even when I now live 2 hours away from my parents and my family and all that, but even when I'm sitting down with my wife and eating dinner, I can still hear my parents in the back of my head, like, there's still food on that plate. Like, you're not done eating. Like,
yeah.
It shocks my wife still to this day. She's just like, where does it go?
Yeah.
I was like, right to my ego. That's exactly where it goes. It goes right to my ego. That's about it.
That's awesome.
Being on the road a lot, I don't get the typical 3 meals a day. So I mean, people always talk about like the intermediate fasting diet and stuff like that. I mean, I kind of do that on a regular basis just because I only have a certain time slot to eat throughout the day.
For sure.
That one meal I eat is the size of like 4.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm really doing this right, but
right.
But it's
working though.
I guess it's working. But I want to talk about your art for a little bit and how you got into wanting to be an artist. So what kind of inspires you to do your art, and where do you get your inspiration from?
I've always done it. You know, when I was younger, I wasn't as public about it just because I was so busy. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and then I was a 2-sport athlete in college. But in college is when I majored in art. I went to school to be a teacher, an art teacher, and I switched my major a little more than halfway through, just to finish with an art studio degree. And I really didn't get the ball rolling with my art career until after I graduated, which is ironic. And so that's when I started doing portraits and stuff for people. And then I slowly got into like bigger pieces. And then now I do a lot of murals. And I'm actually doing like some decent sized jobs for some, you know, some pretty relevant companies and organizations. And so I guess it's just something that I started off small, just, you know, just being a little, you know, something as not even a hobby, just something I did on the side, and now it's consumed my life, and it's pretty much my way of living right now, and I really do love it because, you know, I'm one of the few that get to say they get to do what they want for a living, and you know, and then make a, you know, a living off of it.
You know, I relate to that a lot. You know, comedy started as a hobby. For me, a buddy of mine would run open mic nights in the town that I was in, a little small town, and we would go, and once a month we would go to this show, do anywhere from 10 to 15-minute sets, and just have fun sitting at a bar, drinking with your buddies, going up and cracking jokes.
Yeah.
And turning into a career. You know what I mean? It's awesome. Funny how those things, and I like, starting out, I had like crippling stage fright.
Really?
Yes, that's one thing. Like, people were always shocked. They're like, "We see you on stage now. Like, you seem so comfortable." Like, well, I've been doing it 11 years, so like, yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable.
Now,
I'm there.
You're good.
I don't have to show up an hour early and start getting some liquid courage in me before I go on stage anymore. But it's still like,
actually, because I mean, like I said, I'm really close with Brandon, and he had the same thing. He had fear of speaking in public crowds, and now it's like, you would never guess it just because of how, like, his stage presence and, you know, his speaking engagements and everything like that. So I can only imagine how that transition was for you. That's amazing. That's really crazy. That's awesome.
It took a good 3 years before I was actually like, all right, I don't need to drink as much to get up on stage and, you know, to be able to talk to people and all that. But yeah, it was something that just, you know, like a switch flipped, and I was just comfortable on stage. I mean, the adage in comedy is, it's not if you're going to bomb on stage, it's when you're going to bomb on stage, because it happens. Everybody, all the famous comedians out there have bombed in their career. And I think I bombed so much early on, just trying to figure it out, that it's just like, whatever.
You got it out.
Whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? That it's just now, and I think my general disposition in life is what, I mean, I tell everybody, I just don't care. Like, I've reached an age where it's just like, somebody can be like, I don't like you. I'm like, oh, you hit me right where I don't care. Oh my God! Like, I'm sorry. Like,
exactly.
I don't care. Yeah. So when do you get that? Like, when people see your murals and stuff like that, do you ever see or hear somebody, like, happen to be walking by and people like down talking a little bit? Does that still affect you with your art? Is there a translation with that, with art and, you know, stage frights and stuff like that?
Maybe in the beginning it might have gotten to me. I don't really hear, if it happens, I don't really, you know, hear it now. But even if I did, I don't. I'm numb to stuff like that, just because, you know, I can do the most prolific piece out there. You can't please everybody, right. And that's in any profession. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't please everybody, and as long as you're doing, you know, what what makes you feel good, and you feel great about what you're putting into the world. That's really what it comes down to, and that's really all that matters. Because you're going to have people, no matter what, that they might like it a little, they might like it a lot, they might not like it at all. But it's all about you continuing to push and continue to perfect, what God-given talents you have, and that's it.
100%. I love comedy, and I love what I do, and to me, that's not work. Doing that isn't work because I love what I do. But
for sure,
the joy that I get out of hearing the laughter in the crowd, that's what brings me the biggest joy. But the very close number two is when someone's in the crowd and they're wanting to talk over top of the microphone to tell me how much they don't think I'm funny. I'm just like, oh, but you bought a ticket, and here's the funny thing, I already have your money. So I don't care.
Exactly. Everything after that doesn't matter.
And I'm sure it's like this with art, but people see, the anywhere from right now with me and where I'm at in my career, the 15 minutes to the hour that I'm on stage. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, you work an hour a day. How hard can that be? It's like, no, there's a lot that you don't see behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
And the build-up, and I'm constantly writing jokes. There's never a time when I'm not working. Mm-hmm. And I've found lately that, especially with the world that we live in today, people's shared pain is funny. And, being able to talk about stuff like that on stage, and people are always like, well, how can you get up there and talk about that and not break down? It's like, well, it takes just as much energy to laugh at something as it does to be upset about something. If you can learn to find the funny in any situation, you're going to be a lot happier person.
Exactly. Very, very true. And I agree.
A perfect example of that, and make a quick story, then I want to move on to more of your murals and stuff like that. But about a year ago, my grandfather on my mom's side passed away. It happens, it's something that, it's a sad day. But absolutely. At the funeral, my grandfather on my dad's side can't hear, doesn't wear his hearing aids. If he does, he doesn't have them on or turned up. So he doesn't know how loud he's talking. And he's a loud Italian right off the boat from Sicily. So he's already loud on a normal basis. So he's sitting there, and him and my wife are sitting there, and they're talking. And we're in the funeral parlor 5 rows away from where the casket is sitting. And it's early, and not a lot of people are there yet. Just kind of immediate family is there right now. And those two, but my grandfathers didn't get along.
Oh, really?
At all.
Wow.
And that's funny in itself, but he leans into my wife thinking he's whispering. And he turns and he goes, I don't know how many people are going to show up to this. He was kind of an asshole and nobody liked him.
Oh, my God.
To which I just, I don't know what... At first, you could be like, I'm embarrassed. And I started laughing hysterically when he said that out loud. And then my dad jumps in. He was like, Jesus, what are you... He's right there. Then my grandmother turns around, starts yelling. It was the funniest thing in the world. And we make a joke about it to this day.
Yeah.
It's a sad day, but that's what we remember. Is that funny moment that happened at that, and that's what we talk. My wife, even if there's ever a time when I start talking a little louder than I normally do, she's always looking at me and she's just like, "You're just like your grandfather. Don't look now. No one's gonna. He's an asshole." We just laugh, and that's what you got to do, and that's what I try to convey to people. Is
for sure.
Laughter is the best medicine, and you take a sad day, and now what we remember from that day is everybody laughing at my grandfather thinking he was whispering, and he wasn't.
Yeah, that is funny.
So, your murals that you have in Erie, where can people find those around the city?
They're a little scattered all over. I've done Dobbins Landing, so down by the tower. I've done that one. I've done one on 12th and French. That's right there by the Sunoco gas station. That one is for Luther Manis and his contribution to serving our country, and just his life story, pretty much. I have one now on 7th and Parade. That's on the side of a child care center. I just did that one this summer. I have another one on 11th and Ash. That one is on a 3-car garage. It was heavily tagged in graffiti, and we kind of gave that whole thing a makeover. So I did that one there. One of the locations for gallery night, the shop on the shop on 19th and Chestnut. Inside of there, it's a really unique space, man. They have a bunch of studios for there's woodworkers in there, there's photographers, there's a whole palette of just creatives in there, and I was able to do something in their Bay Area. There used to be a train that ran along 19th Street a few years back, and they wanted to kind of pay a nod to history of that area, and I did a train that looks like it's coming down the street on the inside of their bay. So I did that one. The Caring Place, right off the Bayfront through Highmark. I did something for them in their office space. So I have a few indoors, some outdoors. But if you're driving around, I have them, in all parts of the city. You're probably close to one if you're in town. So.
Okay, seems like you can go anywhere in Erie and find a piece of your work.
Yeah, I'm pretty blessed, man. I've been, like I said, Erie's treated me well as far as me chasing my passion and being able to do this full time.
Absolutely. Now, do you do any other type of art right now other than the murals? And if so, where can people find those?
Yeah, I do like portraits, and I do like commission stuff. I'm usually really busy, like leading up to Christmas and stuff like that. People wanting stuff for like their family. Mother's Day and Father's Day is usually a pretty big one for me too. But yeah, I do that's pretty much mostly what I do is like a lot of canvas stuff. And then I do like I said, the murals and stuff right now. So it just all depends on what somebody's looking for. I'm always willing to try different things and new things too. Kind of switches it up for me and gives me a new challenge. And we both know that that's well needed in all walks of life. So yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I challenge myself. Typically, I try to at least get 2 or 3 in a year of this, because I'm obviously, when you're known as the angry white ranting comedian, you don't really, you don't have a lot of clean sets. Let's just say that. And I challenge myself, like I said, I try to at least 2 or 3 times a year to book a PG-13 or under rating show to challenge myself to not just be losing my mind on stage. It's been some of the best shows that I've done in my career is the clean shows. And it's funny to me that people are like, I hate clean shows, I hate clean. I was like, you can find clean comics that are hysterical, that are on Netflix, and they're professional headliners.
Learn about yourself when you're in those situations, because going into it, you don't think this is going to be enjoyable or fun or anything like that, but you extract something out of those moments that, like that carry you through, the rest of your career or whatever it is that you're doing. And you don't realize it. It's something that just happens without you like planning for it. And so I think that's really really neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm starting to enjoy it. I might add a few more clean shows throughout the years as it goes on, just to keep challenging myself, because it's still a lot of fun. But, Caesar, we are running down near the end of the show here. I do have to get this segment in. We haven't done it in a while, and I'm so happy this is coming back. And that is the Fast Fitty 5. 5 random questions from the wonderful manager of the podcast, Johnny Fitty Falcone. And I gotta tell you, Ceasar, these have zero to do with what we've been talking about, this entire show. These are the most random questions you could find. And they're kind of rapid fire, but you can elaborate if you need to. So if you are ready, we can go ahead and go. All right, so question number 1. Is Wendy's or Arby's better?
Ooh, damn, that's a tough one. Because I had Wendy's today. Ooh. Arby's.
Okay.
And I say Arby's, I mean 51-49 Arby's. It's close. It's close.
Okay. Number 2, would you rather live in Italy or Spain?
Spain.
Spain?
I like Spain. I like Spanish food, Spanish women. Yeah.
Not mad at it. Number 3, is grilling steak or chicken better?
Chicken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4, is macaroni or pasta salad better?
Macaroni salad.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is a fitty question, knowing where he is from and where you're close to. So, last question: would you rather go to a bachelor party in Pittsburgh, PA, or Cleveland, Ohio?
Cleveland, Ohio. Simply because I hate driving in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of things I hate about Pittsburgh, so I'm just gonna go and say Cleveland. Be real with you.
Growing up as close to Pittsburgh as I did, I hated driving in that city. I absolutely hated it. Now that I live the same distance away from Columbus, Ohio, I'd much rather drive in Pittsburgh than Columbus. I despise the town of Columbus, Ohio. I love the comedy clubs. As far as driving goes, I absolutely, minus
now I gotta keep my eyes open if I'm ever in Columbus.
Minus the football team. That's for another show. I don't have enough time to go into that rant about how much I can't stand Ohio State University. But
that's all right with me.
But yeah, at least in Pittsburgh, people still just move. You know what I mean?
I just hate their bridge system. I miss a turn every time I'm in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how. It's unbelievable. It's crazy.
The bridge getting into and out of Pittsburgh still fascinates me. All right. Everybody in the left lane needs to get to the right. Everybody in the right lane needs to get to the left. Here's 20 feet. Make it happen.
Yeah, make it happen. Yeah,
that's about it. But like I said, Ceasar, we're running down near the end of the episode here. I give every guest this opportunity at the end of the show. I'm going to give you about a minute. If there's anything you want to get out there, whether it's for open eyes, your art, anything like that, the floor is yours, my man.
Oh, man. I just want to thank you guys for having me on the show, giving me a chance to kind of tell my story, tell a little bit about myself and what I do. And all I ask is, everybody, no matter who you are, man, walk in the gift that God gave you and do it to the maximum capacity that you can possibly do it. It'll pay off, pays dividends, and continue to support local artists, local businesses, things like that. Yeah, man, I don't have too much more, man. Just everybody stay strong and keep grinding.
All right. I love it when guests have just a good message at the end of the show to end the show. I obviously love it when they promote what they have going on and stuff like that. But when there's a good message at the end of the show, I think it really puts a stamp on how well everything's going. And, I love that. And thank you for that. And thank you for being on. Before we end, I know everyone has heard all of the newer sponsors. We do have one more I have to talk about. It just got started, and it is my own personal coffee brand, Bono's Brew. You can find it on Shopify. I will put that link in the description of this episode. All different flavors, all different strengths. If you're a coffee drinker, you're going to want to check this out. I have everything from the pods for K-Cups and natural ground coffee beans, all made and brewed in Chicago, Illinois. and ships within 3 to 5 days. Why go to the big box stores when you can just order online and have it delivered right to you? I'm super pumped about this opportunity. Everybody, please go and check it out. For all the listeners of the podcast, if you use the promo code RIDEHOMERANTS, I will give you 5% off of your first purchase. That is it for the sponsorship reads, and that is it for this week's episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. Thank you, Ceasar Westbrook, for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Really appreciate talking to you. As always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend, tell a friend. If you didn't, tell them anyways. They might like it just because you didn't. That's going to do it for me, and I will see y'all next week. The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by W Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rock it on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.